Welcome to FL Teams Live. Feel like it's been an eternity since we've done one of these.
Been a
Jeremiah, I
while.
feel like I haven't seen you in eons.
I know, man. It's been a while. It's nice to be back up on here.
Yeah, if you should probably be familiar with us, but in case this is the first time you've tuned into FL Teams Live, I'm Jeff Macolino. You've probably seen my at least my face if you don't watch the videos for the reaction videos after every Lightning playoff game in the last two series, and joined by FL Teams frequent contributor Jeremiah Hensley. How are you?
Doing fantastic, man. This is that weird part of sports season where baseball's okay, NBA, hockey, and football are over. So we're kind of in those dead hours. But thank goodness for YouTube and clips, right?
Yeah. It's funny. All three off seasons. I guess the NFL maybe is the quietest at this point that it's going to be. But yeah, baseball's the only sport going, and baseball, there's a lot of time in there to talk about other sports while you watch a baseball game. So
You may
works out.
notice I'm rocking the Wilmington Blue Rocks, our local, A ball franchise. So to fill my need for sports, I'm just going to minor league baseball games now.
Love it. That's the best when you can get out to a minor league game. It really is just a special. You get the smells and the feels more than a major league game.
Absolutely, man. So, where are we
Yeah,
going to start up, Jeff? What are we talking about?
I guess the biggest thing just ended a couple days ago. We'll start with the Stanley Cup because I clearly want to relive my sadness over and over. The Lightning, did something amazing to begin with. This is almost 40 years since a team made it to three straight Stanley Cup Finals. They're the first team in the salary cap era to make it to three straight. And look, they fell Game 6. The series was one blowout for each team, and then the rest were one goal games. It was a well fought series. Both teams. I love to see the injury report that comes out a couple days after, where you see these guys had torn muscles and mangled fingers and all the every kind of strain and sprain you can imagine on their bodies, and they played through it. Most of them or tried to play through it. Braden Point, who the Lightning missed except for a couple games where he was not really Braden Point, he had a torn quad muscle. I can't imagine trying to get back and ice skate on a torn quad muscle. And he did 2 games. I mean, but he didn't have the explosiveness. I wonder why.
I'm always amazed, Jeff, with just the injury status of any professional sport compared to hockey. I mean, it really is. Turf toe keeps an NFL running back out for 6 weeks. And you got this guy skating on a torn quad. It's just a different level with hockey.
Yeah, the pain tolerance is beyond. I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing. I still remember early in Steven Stamkos's career in the Eastern Conference Finals. I remember him getting hit in the face, getting stitches all across his face, and he came right back as soon as they got him stitched up and stopped the bleeding. It's like I would lie in bed for the next 2 months crying. This guy didn't want to miss a shift. He just couldn't be out there with blood pouring out of his face.
Yeah, and dude, you know what? The cup ended up being more exciting than I thought it was going to be because it was those 2 blowout games up front, right? So I kind of thought where are we going to go with this? But it ended up being a good series, man. I think both teams, did a tremendous job. But as you said, man, your Lightning had 2 in a row. Yeah. I mean, you can't be too hurt with the outcome. Of course, a little sad, but
Yeah, it's what they accomplished is still something great. And really, the Lightning, they have 3 free agents from this team. And not their superstars. I know Andre Palat had 3 more game-winning goals in the playoffs, but he's not a superstar player. He's a top 6 forward, I guess, at least with the Lightning. Just because he complements the superstars he plays with so well. But he's not a superstar. Nick Paul, I grew to love him, especially during the playoffs. He was a trade deadline acquisition. So, they got through most of the season without him. And Jan Ruda is a 5th, 6th, 7th defenseman kind of guy. They're not losing superstar talent. So there's no reason to think this is the end of the line for the Lightning. They might be right back facing the Avs again next year in the Cup Finals.
It's been an unbelievable run. Like you said, you don't think it's going to end. You've got those guys coming back. It just really is pretty amazing at what they've done. If hockey was more on the national scale of things, it would get talked about so much more. It's just the dominance that they've had. So it'll be interesting to see next year and see what kind of run you put back with it.
It's funny. I've never had, how people hate Tom Brady because he wins. There's no reason to hate Tom Brady except for the fact that he is always in the Super Bowl. I mean, he's lost more Super Bowls than most guys go to in their career, if you think about it that way. Boy, I felt so much of that hatred. All 31 other teams in the NHL fans, they hate the Lightning so much. They were so happy to see them lose. And I get it. It was awkward for me. I've never been on that side of things.
You never had the joy of being hated that way, right?
Yeah, it was fun. The reaction videos, man. People.
I saw, man, some of the craziest comments in the world, like just asinine. But that's the beauty of this interweb, isn't it? We get to get everybody's opinions.
Yeah. I'm so offended. They thought I was salty 2 minutes after a Lightning loss. Come on, guys. Not a robot, people. Well, shifting gears to someone who might not be a real person. That's maybe a rough segue. Deshaun Watson hasn't really left the news, but it seems like I don't know. People maybe forgot what his issues were, and without diving too far or much into that aspect of it, after the trade, the trade madness that he caused, people kind of forgot. I said on here, I think he's going to be suspended 6 to 8 games. I think, since then I've heard more that makes me think not 6 to 8 games. This should be 16 to 32 games, in my opinion. I am not Sue L. Robinson, who he is going to continue to meet with, I think, for the third day tomorrow, Thursday, the 30th. The Browns are in a little bit of trouble. You mentioned, too, their backup is Jacoby Brissett. For a team that loaded up on weapons, they might be missing the linchpin part of what you need to run an offense.
Dude, it's the most Cleveland that a Cleveland Browns team could do. It really is. They were competitive. You've got 2 great running backs. The defense is young and getting better. You've got, a defense that's coming together strong. And then you want to try to make the play, and you go out and give guaranteed money and give away first-round picks for a guy. For everything and all intents and purposes that we've seen, they're going to suggest an indefinite suspension of at least 1 year. That's with Sue L. And Sue L will make her judgment. And of course, the Players Association and Deshaun will probably, appeal that. But this is where football gets into its odd place, because the person who decides the appeal is Goodell. So good luck getting that overturned, right? And it's just Cleveland could literally have set their franchise back another 5 to 10 years here. Because Baker's not going to come bail him out. Like, you already kicked him out, right? He's not coming back. You can't just, they were dating him for a while, and then they're like, well, this chick's really hot. I'll go check her out. She leaves on vacation, and you're like, well, we can still hang out. I'm like, no, we can't. You chose that, right? So if you're stuck with Brissett, you are Jacoby, great backup in his career. Awesome. In Miami last year, I didn't recognize the guy. But you were saying something earlier with Baker. Like, how's Baker feeling right now?
I saw him get interviewed, and they straight up asked him, hey, if Deshaun Watson ends up facing like a year-long suspension, would you come back to the Browns? And he handled it very well, but he basically said, no, I think our relationship has run its course. I enjoyed my time in Cleveland, but I think it's time for me to move on. Kind of like the ex-girlfriend who's now looking at her.
I mean, what do you expect, man? I bet Baker Mayfield is laughing so hard. Like for the minute he's away from a camera, I think that guy laughs all day long. I love Baker. I liked Baker's gunslinger attitude and that little bit of frat boyishness, but I guarantee right now he is just loving this, like every second of this.
Yeah, and he should.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the guy led the Browns to a playoff win. And by all accounts, he was playing with a lot of injuries that were really painful last season. And he was gaming through it, even though, they didn't get the results, obviously, that they wanted. With Baker Mayfield instead of Jacoby Brissett, I think the Browns look like a playoff team. With Jacoby Brissett, I think they look like a team with a lot of weapons that is going to have trouble, unless they want to run 60 times a game. They've got the backfield talent to try that.
Man, but what do you realistically do if you're Cleveland now, right? I mean, he's going to be down a year. Baker's not coming back. Could you think this could be the thing that sparks the trade? I mean, could you see Cleveland sending Baker Mayfield to Carolina for Sam Darnold and some picks, right? Or something.
Yeah,
like
Jimmy Garoppolo's still out there.
Right. Well, and that would be, if Baker got traded for Garoppolo, that would just be phenomenal. But, I think a guy like Darnold would make sense for them because, you got Carolina just got Matt Corral in the draft, right? He's not going to be ready for a little bit. You bring Baker over, he's going to be your guy to do that. And hopefully, as Cleveland, you're just looking for a stopgap. And Sam Darnold is a guy who's young. He's had experience, some up, some down, but you're in a hell of a lot better shape with him than you are Jacoby. But I think ultimately Cleveland's going to have to cut Baker. There's too much money. Nobody is going to eat that entire salary. It's not going to happen.
No, well, because of that, he has very little trade value because nobody values him as a franchise quarterback. I think a lot of teams think, if we can't find a better option, he could be a franchise quarterback. I think you saw a lot of that this offseason where teams were, the last teams looking for starting quarterbacks, like the Saints with Jameis Winston, the Falcons with Marcus Mariota. They went with, all right, well, these guys are free agents. We can get them, way cheaper than Baker. We don't need to give up anything. They were high draft picks. They were number 1, number 2 draft picks. Same as Baker. I don't think any of their careers stories are set in stone. I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 of them started for the next decade. Yeah. But Baker, because he's under the big contract, he was kind of the odd man out. He was they were playing musical chairs, and he didn't know he was supposed to be grabbing a chair.
Right. Well, look, and here's the other thing. You talk about in a league where you at least want to have the illusion of power. Like Cleveland has zero power. I mean, there's tipping your hand, and then there's just showing everybody at the table. Like everybody knows Baker's not playing in Cleveland. He's not going to play. Mm-hmm. So why am I giving you anything for this guy? You're going to cut him. Eventually you have to. You're not going to pay him, so you're going to have to cut the guy. And we'll be there when he does, or you're going to eat that salary. It's not the same with Garoppolo. Garoppolo is sort of that, he's that laid back sort of guy that if he has to stay in San Francisco and back up Lance for the season, I think he'll do that. Garoppolo isn't that bitter about his situation, it doesn't appear, but Baker 100% is.
Yeah, well, in Garoppolo, it seems like, from what I'm hearing, they're going to give him a chance to win the job over Lance, so they don't have to trade him. Trey Lance didn't play that much. He had his moments, but he certainly wasn't a slam dunk. This guy's going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback for you next year. So keeping him around makes more sense. But yeah, like you said, Baker Mayfield, he's not going to be allowed into the building even if he wanted to. I guess at this point, if he wanted to, they'd probably let him in, but I think he has moved on. I think they did him dirty too with some of the leaked information about his maturity and stuff like that. I don't like the way the Browns handled any of that. Nor, again, I think everyone thought, including the other three teams trying to trade for Deshaun Watson, they thought what they did guaranteeing his entire salary was insane because none of them were going to do that.
So I haven't really read on that, Jeff. Like, if this is a conduct violation, right, and they suspend him for a year, what if Goodell and everybody was to say, you know what, you can't play another snap of football in the NFL? Are the Browns still on the hook for that whole thing? I mean, there's got to be an out in there somewhere that says, like, you know, hey, if you go to prison for 7 years, we don't have to pay you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough to say. I would think, given the circumstances which they redid his contract, there would have to be something in there.
You would think
about it. But I could also see Deshaun Watson's agent saying absolutely nothing about this can be in there. But yeah, I can't see a guy like, I don't think Calvin Ridley's salary is counting against the Falcons cap this year. Right. So I don't think cap wise it would affect them. I'm not sure, if they still would have to pay him something. But presumably, if he's actually suspended as opposed to last year where he was just kind of on administrative leave, he was paid last year not to show up. So presumably being suspended, that's without pay. So I assume that's just just like any other player who gets suspended 4 games for steroids or something. I assume he'd fall into that.
Again, only Cleveland could find a way to do it this beautifully. Piss off the potential franchise quarterback who was a first-round pick, bring in the guy who's got sexual assault allegations that gets suspended, and now you've taken a solid team of talent and you've put yourself in at the bottom of it. But that's not the only questionable stuff we've seen around the NFL this year, though, right? Look, we're still seeing our FL Team's Hall of Famer Christian Kirk having some impact on the freaking market again, right?
Every receiver in the NFL needs to send Christian Kirk or his agent a gigantic gift. Terry McLaurin, he's a good wide receiver.
Sure.
Not great. And I believe he's now a top 5 paid receiver. Signed a 3-year extension with the Washington Commanders worth $71 million. I saw the news breaking and I thought that's a mistake. Maybe 61 given Christian Kirk's deal. I'll be honest, part of me, the thing I remember most about Terry McLaurin this past season was playing the Saints, and Marshawn Lattimore erased him. He set a record in that game for passes defensed. McLaurin could not get any separation on Lattimore. So Lattimore can erase the best of the best at times, but Terry McLaurin, I don't know. He doesn't seem like a top 10 receiver to me, and he's getting some darn good money.
Game, and one of the other things that happened that I don't think Washington's really truly addressed, he defended the most passes because they had nobody else to throw the ball to. They were just throwing to McLaurin, and they forced it to McLaurin over and over. And he's a good receiver, but he can be physically held, right?
Yeah.
If McLaurin was back in the day of the Sam Madisons, the Pat Surtains, those guys, and you were allowed to get that much contact with receivers, he'd be erased, right? I mean, he's fast, he's agile, he's athletic, but if you put a body on him, he's really not going to power off of you. In the NFL, we're playing flag nowadays, so he gets a little more space, but I just don't see it again. It's so much money, and it's going to level out. It has to.
Yeah, well, I was with McLaurin. I was talking to my son about him compared. Look, Stephon Diggs is a smaller receiver. He can get open against anyone. He at times he will get separation. Michael Thomas, another receiver who they say all he does is run slants. Well, why can't you stop him then?
Right.
You can't. Terry McLaurin though is a guy who I think can be erased from games. So thinking of paying him more than $23 million a year, that just seems insane to me. But I'll also say, I think I'm going to, teasing something we're going to do here in FL teams during the season with NFL power rankings. I think I'm going to have the Commanders at number 32 potentially at the start of the power rankings. I'm considering that. So a lot of things they do doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. They've got so many question marks still with young quarterbacks and running back, and the offense is just not there. And their defense is good. It's a shame, man. I mean, they've really got some players on the other side of the ball. The only thing that keeps them hopeful is they're in the NFC East, and somehow the Giants and all that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and West Boca Bullseye raises a good point. Considering their depth, it Steele's worth. Yeah, he is their weapon. I mean,
yeah, he's all they got, right?
Yeah, you can't let them walk. That's for sure. And frankly, there's a decent point to be made that's just what it costs now. It's absurd, but again, the Christian Kirk effect and receivers have catapulted really even edge rushers in what their perceived value is to NFL teams right now, which seems insane to me. But it's a interesting thing, and that's where drafting young receivers who you can control their salary for a little bit, like Dotson, that's hitting on those rookie receivers is going to become so important in the NFL moving forward.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, you could make the argument too that, minus Christian Kirk effect and all that, we are living in an era where, teams pass the ball more than they ever have. And as a group, collective, this might be the most talented group of wide receivers playing at one time in a super long time. You had guys who were great, but there was a fall off. I mean, you've got, 15 receivers that can be considered top tier that you'd be okay running as your one, right?
Right.
Or more. I mean, there's guys that are, it's so, yeah, you're right. Maybe that's just become the cost of that. I'm wondering when that's going to change. Used to running backs still had a value, right? And then everybody started doing the split backfields and two or three back. Now the running backs are just pieces that are interchangeable. You'll wonder if we'll ever get to that point with receivers.
Yeah, well, shout out to the Saints for signing Jarvis Landry, who's looked completely healthy in OTAs for $3 million.
Juice.
I mean, that's highway robbery right there.
Juice. I love him too, man. The way he plays is so great, man.
Yeah, he's looked great in training camp this offseason for New Orleans. So, boy, if they get Michael Thomas with Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry, that receiving core goes from being the probably the worst in the NFL last year to being up there.
Look, that's a receiving core that can make a quarterback like Jameis Winston even look good. I take my shots at Jameis only because I know you're a believer. I hope it's there, man.
Yeah, I'm a believer in the way that, the guy signed a contract with my team, so I'm going to be blind to everything about him that I previously ripped him apart for. So, one of those things.
Yeah.
So the NBA is going wild as well. I mean, it's that time of offseason. Big trade today was the Hawks trading multiple first-round picks along with Gallinari to the Spurs for their all-star guard, Dejounte Murray. A lot of picks.
It's a lot of picks, and I mean, for a guy like Murray, at least I'm a sort of casual NBA fan. He wasn't on my radar really. I mean, but he was an all-star this year. I saw an interview with the Hawks GM. And I like when guys can be like painfully, brutally honest. And the Hawks GM basically came out and said, like, look, we're not going to make the same mistake we made last year, which is just standing pat. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago. They get knocked out. And then they didn't make moves in free agency, right? Because they literally thought that they were just going to progress, right? He said he thought all the young guys with just experience would take another step. And they didn't. And that's going to be the worry right there is what do you do with Murray? Are you going to keep him on ball or off ball? They want talent back with Trae Young, but they are similar. I think Murray can play a little more of the shooting guard and be off ball and give Murray some support or give Young some support back there. But I think the Falcons are banking on that Falcons, listen to me now, Atlanta, the Hawks are banking on their young team is going to get better and you add one or two pieces. So they didn't even protect the draft picks, right? They're not protected. So if something completely blows up and Atlanta's in the lottery 2 years in a row, then what a home run, right? I mean, for the Spurs, I just it's pretty amazing. But I'll tell you this: we talked about the Christian Kirk effect for wide receivers. When we get into this era or this part of the NBA season with free agency and stuff, I'm amazed every year. And again, I say casual NBA fan because I don't, I know the names, but when you start seeing the deals and the numbers that get given to these guys, right? You'll see a guy signs a 3-year deal for $40 million, and you look up his stats, and he's a career like 6 points a game, 3 rebounds, and an assist. I'm like, you're giving him $20 million a year for 6 a game?
And they're all guaranteed.
Right. I'm like, what the hell? I don't know. And but you know what? To quote our faithful leader here, Mr. Edelman, I think they both choke.
I was going to say I don't remember either one winning.
Right. I'll always remember the pulled field goal for Atlanta or the second half meltdown in the Super Bowl. And the Hawks they couldn't do it with Dominique Wilkins. When they had Dominique back in the day, still couldn't make that run. So
talking about the Falcons choking gets me excited.
So, I mean, it is, though. It's that weird time of year in the NBA, man. And talking about that, that was the trade. The other stuff that I thought was really interesting, Jeff, is guys who decided to opt in or opt out of these player option years that they have, right? So, on my side,
Kyrie Irving's the big one, right?
Kyrie opted back in. Russ opted back in with LA, right? So Wilson's going to stay in LA, and then you got Kyrie staying. But then you get in my area here in Philadelphia, Harden opts out, and then just down the road from me, Bradley Beal opts out. So Bradley Beal is going to be a free agent for what feels like the first time in his career. And I got to think that this is the kind of piece that anybody would like to add, although he may just be doing it so he can sign a max deal and get more money. But, I mean, Bill's the kind of guy that you add to a team and can really change things. Harden, I don't know about, man. I was talking to a buddy of mine today. Like, I mean, Harden has talent, but, like, does it come and go? Like, it's weird to see an NBA player's weight fluctuate the way his does during the year. Because, I mean, conditioning is usually kind of a point for them, unless it's a giant guy like Shaq or something. But you feel like Harden, can start the year like 20 pounds heavier than he should be. I just don't know if he's got the love or the drive for this anymore, but somebody's going to give him something because he can shoot.
Yeah. And I heard, with all my NBA sources, I heard that James Harden is open to negotiating a deal to come back to Philly. And maybe that's where he winds up. Kyrie Irving is a puzzling player to me because I understood completely and don't need to get into the reasons he missed an awful lot of the past season with, vaccination stuff. I understand that, but I kind of wonder if he, I don't, as Johnny said, he won't probably play a game until he gets an extension. So part of me questions his current love for the game as well. Again, I don't blame him for you believe what you believe. I don't mind people having beliefs, but does he, if he threatens or does sit out some of this season because he can't get a contract extension, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way, but I'm.
Well, look, yeah, I like that you stayed nice on your words to him, because when you do your podcast for the second episode of Flat Earthers, you might still want to make a run at Kyrie, right? But look, the Nets, to me, as an outside fan, I'm so glad that their experiment is going the way that it did. I love that they tried to put together the super group, and for one of the first times we see it completely implode, right? It just doesn't work. And then, so you got Kyrie up there who whenever he's going to play. And then Ben Simmons, I think he's now allergic to leather basketball. I don't know what Ben Simmons' deal is. This dude just won't even show up to play either. So the Nets are wrestling with Ben Simmons, Kyrie, but I love that the super team kind of imploded a little bit, man. It made me feel good. Although Golden State, is anyone would tell you, they're completely packed, but they're also completely packed with guys who have been around and with them for a long time. Draymond Green, Poole, it's Steph, it was and the same for Klay Thompson is Thomas. So, it's a homegrown sort of thing, organic, as opposed to that mutant that everybody was trying to put together all the time,
Yeah, that's one thing I loved watching the Eastern Conference Finals. Not that I watched a ton of it. I had, hockey distracting me. The Panthers Lightning series were scheduled for some reason on the same day as the Heat games against the Celtics for the most part. But there's a lot of homegrown, the super teams have driven me insane. I think Boston was the first one that really pulled it off with Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce.
Yep.
And that group. It's driven me insane. And really, frankly, it's driven me away from the NBA, watching these guys just say, all right, we're all going to this place. LeBron, that's the only way LeBron ever won a championship. Michael Jordan didn't need to do that, by the way.
Michael's good. What I hate is, I felt like for once it was like the youth culture started to dictate, the NBA. These guys who did this were one of the first groups that came along, you could say, that played AAU basketball every summer, where all the best players in an area came together and you all went out and you went all across the country. That didn't exist in the days of Bird and Isaiah and Magic. And so this group grew up with that. So when it became contract time, I felt like that's how they were handling it. Like, let's put together the best AAU squad to go. And that's, to me, it's okay. I can't say a ton about it. I'm a Dodger fan. I say it every time. Dodgers do it in baseball. But it's, trying to buy that and put it together it just cheapens the whole thing, man.
Well, and it bothers me, and it makes sense from a business standpoint, but it also seems like it will preclude like a New Orleans Pelicans or an Orlando Magic, small market teams like that. They're never going to be the place for these super teams to build up. It's going to be the New Yorks. Miami was lucky enough to get one.
That's South Beach. Who doesn't want to come to Miami with money in your 20s?
Yeah, right. hey, and the Magic, at least they should be pushing. Hey, we no state income tax. At least we got here. But the Lakers again, Boston. It's easy to build them up in big markets. With I'm still shocked the Knicks have not been able to execute it. But they I don't.
the Knicks. It's just amazing. They just did a huge salary dump with the Pistons, sending Nerlens Noel and one other player over to the Pistons basically for nothing. They just kind of said, will you take these guys and pay them? And the Pistons were like, okay, come on over. But the whole idea is they're supposed to be making a run at Brunson, who's best known for running the point for Giannis in Milwaukee. And Brunson's come on and become a heck of a player, but they're going to throw a ton of money at him. And, they just can't get over that, man. They just can't get over the hump with it.
Yeah. I don't know. The Mets, the Jets, the Knicks, it's just fun to watch a New York team fail.
It really is. It just gets amplified so much. There's literally just gas on the flames. But what I hate is I think, Madison Square Garden used to be a place that was like a mecca for NBA players, right? Like you wanted to play in the Garden and you want to go there. I think it's lost a ton of luster. Like it's not the same as what it was before, But yeah, it's going to be interesting with free agency, with the way that it's going to go down with these NBA teams. And again, I think a lot of money goes out to a lot of people that we don't really know that well unless you're a hardcore NBA fan. But it's again, anytime I'm still a sucker for action like that, I get pulled in no matter what. On the NBA, dude, did you see Steph Curry will be hosting the ESPYs this year?
You're the one who told me that. So no, I had not heard that. That's interesting. I would tend to prefer a comedian, but give Steph a shot. I watch I don't know if you've even heard of that show, Holy Moly, that's hosted by Joe Tessitore and Rob Riggle. My kids and I watch that, and that's Steph Curry's. He produces it or something. It's not in it a ton because I think they shoot it during basketball season. But he seems to have a sense of humor on him. So we'll see.
I like the play, right? I like the idea of it. Break it up a little bit. The ESPYs is all about sports, so having a guy up there to lead it, that should be interesting. We'll see. I mean, look, after it's hard to find a host that doesn't have something that will get him canceled. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Hart, poor kid.
I kind of expected fun unplanned segue. I kind of expected Adam Sandler to get a shot at it because I don't know if you've seen his movie on Netflix, Hustle.
No, I've seen it up there. I haven't watched it. Have you?
Oh yeah, any basketball fan would enjoy it, and I would say, frankly, even if you're not a basketball fan, I loved it. I thought it was excellent. And I'm not a basketball fan, by the way.
Yeah, I keep putting it on the list, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch that. And then I get pulled into something else silly. But yeah, no, I got to check that out.
Yeah,
that's an actual NBA player too that's in the movie, right? It's some guy who's
There's tons of NBA players in the movie. The credits are just, I assumed, not recognizing them all by their face. I assumed some people would be like, lookalikes or nope. There were a ton of NBA players in the movie. So, tool of and Adam Sandler again in a kind of a serious role in a basketball themed movie. It's not nearly as dark and heart racing as Uncut Gems. So.
Okay. Yeah. Dude, I'll buy in on most things Sandler does. I think yesterday, and it's completely off topic of everything, but yesterday I just happened to leave the TV on a certain channel and then walked by and The Waterboy was on. And I'm like, well, I'm here for the next, 45 minutes till this is over.
Hey, Adam Sandler is kind of like Kevin Costner. If you're talking about sports, you can talk about those guys because half their movies are sports movies. They're
absolutely. Like who makes a better golf movie than Happy Gilmore? It's tough.
Yeah. Kevin Costner made a good one too.
Yeah, Costner running side by side.
Yeah, maybe those two need to team up for some sports ultra movie. They can toss me a role. You too, if you want.
Let's put it together, Jeff. We'll just write it and we'll send it to them. That's how it works, right? You just mail it to them.
Sure. That's how they made Home Team, the movie about Sean Payton. Except for it's like Sean Payton's son-in-law who's friends with Adam Sandler. So
there you go.
Might need some connections, but we can figure it out. Well, I think we can wrap up the comeback of FL Teams Live.
100%. Oh, can I throw one more thing at you? It's off cuff.
Please. Yeah.
Arch Manning. Committed. Arch Manning commits to Texas.
I'm not just judging from the Manning family and their history. I expected him to pick a college like that, one that his dad didn't go to or his uncles didn't go to, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm not totally shocked at that pick. I figured he'd stay in that South region, of course, but
I was expecting the SEC, man. I thought he would go to SEC. I have a good friend of mine who's a Longhorns fan, and when they first heard it, they were excited, but they're like, "Dude, the quarterback we have this year is like," and he's like the number 7 recruit in the nation at quarterback going to Texas. And I'm like, well, that'll be fun for him to play for a year because there's no way Arch Manning chose a school that was like, you're going to be on the bench and earn. No, Arch could go wherever he wanted to go.
Yeah, he's day one starter.
for me, too, I finally feel like the circle is complete because I always felt bad for Cooper Manning. I just did. I just imagined Thanksgiving Day, NFL quarterback, and Coop. Cooper's there. Now Cooper can just call his son over. Hey, Arch, come on over here.
Right? How many number 1 recruits do you guys have?
Exactly. And you're right. I thought Florida was very much in the mix. To land Arch Manning. But yeah, that's a rough one to hide. But can you imagine the amount of pressure? You carry the Manning name and legacy.
That's what I'm thinking. If he doesn't fall flat on his face, that tells you all you need to know about this kid. He's going to be a superstar. If he doesn't struggle for a couple of years, because I can't imagine the pressure of the expectation. People are expecting Peyton Manning to walk through the door basically day one. And look, Eli wasn't Peyton Manning.
No. Well, look, I think ultimately what broke Eli and made him who he was when he went to Ole Miss, friggin' their dad, right, was such a tremendous athlete at Ole Miss that literally the speed limit on the campus is his old football number. It's like the speed limit is like 11 or whatever he wore in college. And so, Eli was on that campus all day, every day. And I think it just broke him at some point that he just became the aw shucks sort of guy that was like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't, But to follow your father's footsteps that closely. And then, you've got these uncles and it's going to be a giant expectation. But I bet the guy gets a ton of money in NIL or NLI, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious how that all will work out.
Right.
And it's 18, by the way, Archie Manning.
18. There you go. There it is. Yeah. So the speed limit is 18.
At Ole Miss.
Right. That's so funny. So yeah, man, that one just came to my brain as we were wrapping this up though, Jeff. But man, it's been too long doing this. I know the playoffs kept you away, fighting hard for your Lightning. But we got some fun things planned coming up. Keep this coming back. So we're updating everybody. This is the best way to spend a Wednesday night ever for me, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad so many of you in the comments here today were with us as well. And obviously you can always check the replays on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and make sure, especially if you're watching this on any of those places, you follow, subscribe, all of that stuff. We appreciate you tuning in, and you're more than welcome to rip us in the comments. I am more than used to it after what I got from Rangers and Avs fans the last few weeks.
Baptism by fire, my friend.
I leaned into it at a certain point. So thank you, West Boca Bullseye. But yeah, that'll do it. We will be keeping you updated throughout the off season. We'll probably talk a little baseball, but the Rays I don't want to talk about it right now. So
I just need Corey Kluber to start doing his stuff, man. He's killing me.
Hey, Shane McClanahan, by the way, somebody picked him in our prediction show to win the AL Cy Young. I'm looking golden for that one right now.
And Jeff, thanks so much for getting this set up and getting us going tonight with our fearless leader doing his cross country tour of going out and enjoying his summer. It's the summer of Isaac. The
summer of Isaac leads to these bearded older men talking sports on a Wednesday night.
Well, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it as always.
Yeah. And, thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you here next week. Again, subscribe wherever you get your stuff, and we appreciate you joining us.